What would you say to Christians who are considering not voting?
Oh, I have a lot to say about that. Okay, just light me up like a firecracker and send me off in that direction. So, when this nation was founded and the Declaration of Independence was written, there's actually a prayer, there's actually a cry to the Lord in the Declaration of Independence. And when the 13 colonies were founded, all of them, all 13, required a declaration of faith to serve in government. 12 Protestant, 1 Catholic, all required a declaration of faith. We have been given a God-given right and duty, which is liberty, which is freedom with responsibility. Our responsibility is to vote. Our responsibility in this, people died for this. People died so we could have this right. And when you say, as a Christian, I'm not getting involved, I'm not doing this, you're making the mistake that the 12,000 pastors made in Germany, who said, I'm not getting involved with this, and it paved the way for tyranny. It paved the way for Hitler to rise to power, because that's the kind of power the church has given unto us by Almighty God. And so when you say, I'm going to sit this out and I'm not going to vote, you have not one right to complain about what happens in this nation. Not one. Because you are choosing to abstain from something that God has given us a right to do.
Hello, friends. I'm Donné Clement Petrushka, and I am honored to invite you to something truly extraordinary, the Kim Clement Prophecy Vault. Now you can gain unprecedented access to my father's entire digitized video archive. Every prophetic moment, every powerful teaching, every anointed worship session is now available to you in the Prophecy Vault. We've also enhanced the prophecy database, meticulously updating it with new video content and profound insights. Plus, I'm excited to share that my dad's special School of the Prophets teachings are included, offering you deep, transformative lessons on hearing God's voice and understanding His revelations. As part of your membership, you'll also gain access to my prophecy blog, where I break down and analyze my father's prophecies, connecting them to current events. This blog will provide you with exclusive insights and a deeper understanding of how God's Word is unfolding right now. And we're offering something truly special: exclusive analysis sessions available only to members of the Prophecy Vault. These sessions will go beyond the surface, providing in-depth exploration of specific prophecies and their implications for today and the future. Your partnership is crucial. Not only will you gain access to these incredible resources, but you'll also help us continue the vital work of preserving, digitizing, and adding new Kim Clement material to the archives. So, I'm inviting you to step into the Kim Clement Prophecy Vault. Let's embark on this journey of revelation together, and I can't wait to see you inside.
Shed His grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to stay.
say something to you right now. Whatever nation you're in, wherever you live, it may not be the greatest nation in the world, or maybe they have faults. But I want to tell you something, you can bless your nation like Americans bless their nation. Yes, we know that they have faults, but there are people, a godly people, living in each nation, and because of them, that nation can become the salt of the earth and the light of the world. So why don't you sing to your nation? We'll sing those two over and over. You're the salt of the earth, the light of the world. Prophesy over your nation, over your family, over your community and your town or your city that you live in. Let's ask for God's blessing. Say your nation, God. You are the light. You are the light of the world. Salt. You are the salt of the earth. Okay. You are the light of the world.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. We are coming to you from the Reawaken America Tour. This is the final one, and we are so excited. We have had such an amazing experience, haven't we, Christy?
We really have. And, you know, everything's about the election right now. We've got some incredible guests that you're going to see today. You're going to see, the next couple Wednesdays. And then Donné, Charlie, and I are going to DC to go and play some prophecies of Kim's there, to pray, to do all those kinds of things. But I just wanted to encourage you. We're about to go in and watch some of these interviews. Let your hearts be activated. Let your faith be stirred. I know everybody's tired, but now is not the time to give up. Remember this, we do not grow weary in doing well, for we know at the right season, at the right time, we will reap a harvest if we don't give up. So I'm calling on you not to give up and to keep going. That's what we're doing today. And so as we go into this, you're going to hear stories from Amanda Grace, from Trey Smith, from all these different people. And as you hear these accounts, let your heart be moved and know that yet again, it's just an example of prophetic words that God gave to Kim that have been coming to fruition, and know that it's for you as well. Some of you might be saying, well, I didn't get a personal word from Kim. Not everybody did. But what God is done through Kim and is still doing is showing us that he knows the future, which means he knows your future, which means your future is secure. And so today, as we go into this, I'm encouraging you to sow today. I'm encouraging you to donate. There's a red link that's come up below your screen, below the player. As you're watching this, as you hear from Amanda Grace, as you hear from Trey Smith, as you see bits and pieces of what we've been doing, activate your faith, activate that full armor of God, and sow with intention, sow with purpose, sow into your destiny, sow into your future. Because some of what Kim said 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, he was seeing through time into where we are right now. And when you sow and donate into this, you're sowing and donating into a future that is secure and sure, because our entire foundation, Kim's entire foundation, was built on Christ. And that's what we're doing. That's who we are. So as you do this, as we go into this, sow, give, and trust God that every need you have will be met. And let's trust God that as we stand together, we're going to defy the spirit of the world that has blinded the minds of so many people, and that we are going to see God's will come to pass in this election. So that's what I had to say about that, Donné.
Absolutely beautiful. Well, let's go into this. Hi, everyone. On the road here at the Reawaken America Tour. This is the final one. And we have got Trey Smith. The Trey Smith is here with us. And, of course, Christy.
Hello.
And, okay, so we're coming up on this election now, Trey. What are your feelings? What are you thinking?
Well, according to your father, somehow, and I don't know what happens on election day, and as a kind of almost a joking calm before the storm. I've been asking people that while we walk around here. So tell me honestly, what precisely happens on election day? we're anticipating that a lot of stuff, everything but the kitchen sink, is going to get thrown at it. But there's somehow Trump is going to go in, and then you've got problems after that. But we're going to fight through them, like what's been happening.
Yeah.
And in the course of that, your father said that they will say this has never happened before in our country and in our culture. But the shaking will be good for America because you're about to embark on a journey that you've never embarked upon before. And he also said, and I don't think we've come on these parts yet, he said, you've been humbled and yet some more. And then you will hear the sounds of great victory. For where are my people gathered?
Yeah.
And we're in a state right now where they've destroyed. I was listening to Ivan over here. My wife talks to him periodically on whatever she talks on the Facebook or something. And he's a military looking guy. I think he knows more than he'll admit to. I've gone up and tried to talk to him, and he's got that kind of secrety. There's more happening, but we need to do this kind of a look.
Colonel.
Yeah.
These people are a big deal. And even I get that feeling from a lot of these people at these events. So the big thing they're all saying is to go vote, but privately, because we're going to swamp this thing. We're going to overcome it like an absolute storm because there are a lot of people awake. But whatever's coming, and I have a feeling that there's a lot of people, I felt the whole time, even the first time I came to one of these events, Donné, that even you are surrounded by people who know a lot more than they'll even tell you in the interviews. You probably know that too. But that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That we're coming on hours where there's going to be, like your dad said, some kind of a breaking, and a big enough one where people are shaken and they see it. And that's what I think is happening.
And I think, if you think about the Reawaken America Tour and the waking up, and you remember he prophesied about the scales removed from eyes and a new party coming, and it isn't Republican or Democrat. It was he called it in another prophecy, he called it the American Party, the new American Party. So Dad saw this remnant of people gathering and fighting and a new party emerging from it. And then even in those assassination attempt prophecies where he saw Kennedy and he said, he was in Chicago. And the amazing thing about it was August 26th or something.
Yes.
And that RFK Jr. officially endorsed Trump. And my dad prophesied this on August 29th of 2009. So within a few days of almost exactly 15 years later. And what he said in that prophecy was, the Kennedy family, I'm going to do something with the Kennedy family, he said, and then I will join the hands of Republicans and Democrats in a most unusual way, and America will rise to the occasion and come to oneness with God. That's what he prophesied.
Yes.
And so I'm going to be playing that tomorrow when I do my presentation here, because I present tomorrow prophecies, and I'm going to add that on there because it's so incredible how not only did he see the Kennedys and the uniting of the Republicans and the Democrats in an unusual way, but he saw a victory. He saw a coming to oneness with God, and I think that's very significant. And how precise.
I think the thing that's really gotten I lived with your dad. I mean, I know what the man was like. He was not a fan. We've said it so often of politics, and he didn't watch the news. He'd get annoyed, and that was it. He was playing classical piano or watching Peter Sellers. Like, that's what he did. But just the amount of prophecy we're seeing fulfilled is genuinely mind-blowing. Whether you look at what's happened in Israel, all the different things that have happened, there's so much prophecy coming to pass. And I was speaking to somebody earlier today, Janice from His Glory, and she was saying, do you think that do you think that his words would have been as incredible to everybody else had he still been alive? And I said, I don't know, because when you think whether it's a great artist, painter, whatever, even the prophets of old, it's almost in their death, the words almost carry more power.
Yes.
And so that's something that's really fascinated me. Just even having lived with him, I'm still blown away constantly by the accuracy and how we're seeing things be fulfilled.
You were there when Kim was he called you one time and said, "Get up and come to Israel."
He called me many times. In fact, in the middle of the night. In fact, in that particular instance, it was actually the last mission he sent me on before he got ill. I hate spiders. I'm an arachnophobe, and he was trying to get me to wake up by texting me, and my phone was on silent, which it wasn't normally. And so a spider ran over my face at 4:13 a.m. Yes, and woke me up. I was horrified, and I smacked my own face because I felt this running. And I looked, and I'd just seen about 40 texts from your dad, Doris, Doris, Doris. And then he said, in Jesus' name, wake up. So I think the Lord sent a spider on behest of your father to wake me. And he said, go to Israel now. I need you to go. And so a couple hours later, I was on a plane. I was meant to go for 3 days.
A couple hours later,
yeah, I was on a plane,
going to Israel.
ended up spending a month there. And it was actually on that trip, my last series of texts with him, he had wanted me to move to Jerusalem. And so the last mission he gave me was, he said, I want you to go and do a tour throughout like Europe and go and teach about the Holocaust and the importance of people understanding that because of the rise of the Fourth Reich.
Yes.
And he, the plans were for me to move to Jerusalem and be able to go in between Jerusalem and LA. And then obviously he tragically got ill and everything kind of went to hell in a handbasket. But that was the mission he'd put me on. And that was he would wake me up and say, you need to come to LA, you need to go to Israel. And it would be at some ungodly hour. Or my favorite one, he woke me up once at 2 a.m. and said, I need to know the main differences between Islam and Christianity now. So 2 a.m. I woke up. I was still sitting in my Eeyore pajamas. He said, I need you to Skype in with me. I said, okay. I ran off quickly. Yes. Quickly wearing put some makeup on, put a shirt on and sat there at 2 a.m, but that's what he was like. And that prophetic, it was just constant, constantly, even when he told me he wanted me to work for him, I said, what do you want me to do for you? And he said, I want you to be ready. That was the mission. I want you to be ready. And boy, did I live on my toes.
He had a way of keeping people on his toes. It's a pity he never got to meet you. Well, he did meet you. He prophesied over you.
Yes, when that was how I knew. Okay,
Tell
maybe let's do that. Okay, so before I had ever even met you or your mother, Donné, I got actually a message from a lady that was working for me at that time, and she said, "You'll never believe who just wrote." She said, "You'll never believe who just wrote." And I said, "No, who?" And she said, "Well, it's the family of Kim Clement." And that was really a giant honor, Donné, because I had yes. So your father, when he did events, and my mother went to quite a lot of these. She went to more of them than I did, but I went to a few of them, and you wouldn't have even gotten probably close to your dad if you were somebody coming. So there would be, I remember in Texas, there was one event and there were people parked as far as, out in cornfields and things to see your dad. It would just go all the way back. And these were large churches, and they would be packed with people. So, and he would be up there and he would give prophecies. So even to be someone that would have gotten, and I want anybody listening to this to know the gravity of that, because that's why later when I went on this prophetic cruise thing, so to even be called up to the front with your father, Donné, would have been a big deal. And I think he had sort of left the personal he didn't do as much of it, because there were other occasions, or there was at least one other occasion, and we were clear at the back of a thing. So your dad would have looked like that. Okay. It would have looked like a rock star on a stage, right? And these were large stages at very large churches. And and people would fight to get up there, just to get up there, on the stage. Yes. And but on that occasion, so this was on a cruise ship, and my mother, who's still alive, my dad passed away this year too. So I kind of, but she had wanted me to go, and I was kind of a rebellious kid, so I would do other things on the boat, but she would want me to come to the events.
And this was a cruise to Hawaii.
This was a cruise to the Bahamas, and it was called something like a prophetic cruise, and it was. I've only been on a cruise ship twice, and both of them have been on events like this. And the first one was with your father, and another one was recently with another man that's doing sort of what we're doing now. And not a prophetic man, but does a show called In We Know. And you've watched him probably. So he called up 3 people that night. and he said one day you'll he said a variety of things, and I kind of keep that private because they were. But I'll tell you. But he said one day you'll speak to millions of people, is what he
You
said.
were 16 years old.
I was 16 or 17 years
Oh,
old,
that's amazing.
and I was on the boat. But but the things that he told me, even about my life at that time, and I had long hair then. And the first thing your dad said is
You would have liked that.
well, actually he did. And my mother actually hated it. She said, and the Lord wants you to know he even likes your hair. And I don't know if that was a Kim, but I had long hair. Now I'm losing the hair. So it's kind of one of those punishments, but here's where I knew years later that, that there was also a feeling about it, Donné, that this was very real. And at that time, there were a lot of people who would give words at churches. And for example, there were ladies my mother knew. There's one of them now. Her name is Donna Harrelson. And you know when Donna gives you a word that, and Donna's aren't always as encouraging as your father. Like if Donna's got a word for you, yeah. But then there were other people that would tell you, excuse me, it would tell you kind of whatever they want to believe. And you probably saw this in a lot of churches growing up, and your dad wasn't like that. There were, these things would stunningly happen. And there was also, like you said, a very much a supernatural feel to it. That was what I heard from you the first time I ever met you. You said there was something supernatural about all of this.
Yes.
And even the Bibles he had and these other things. So I hadn't really thought about, but I held those prophecies in my heart, Donné, for a lot of years, particularly your father's, because I went through a lot of hard times in my life. And I thought, well, one day I'm going to be doing something that will be of substance because of these words.
Do you know, so many people have learned of my dad because of you and the things that you and your videos and your stuff that you released.
So there was a grainy old Kim Clement tape, and I've got clear images of it now, but it's almost weird in a poetic way because it was just what I had. It was a video that I had found of your dad, and people were doing events at that time, prophecy ones even, they would still call them this, there was one, in fact, in Colorado Springs that we'd gone to. And I had just kind of come back from it when I was looking at these tapes. Really nice people, but they were kind of parroting the news. You know, it's the book. You're, as all of you know, watching, you're living in the book of Revelation. You're at the end. Hillary's going to win. And so you might as well get your food buckets now. And we've got a lot of them, and they're on special. They're $250. But if you act now, we can get them to you for $158. That doesn't include shipping. And you're at the pale horse. It's just that simple. You can see that here. Look at Hillary's eyes. It's done. Okay, this is checked out time. And I went to these, and I literally was in an event very much like this. They're wonderful people. I've got food buckets. I mean, just in case, this was true. I've got a lot of them. I have no idea how long they last. Julie and I we'll give them a shot. If we're at the end, we're going to give them a shot. But there was this grainy Ken Clement tape, and this is not what he was stating. He was stating that you were going to have your best years ahead. And actually, if you go back and you watch that original one, those prophecies that I used in that, I'm the most terrified of now because there were things your dad said in that one that I got, very welcoming invites from Islamic countries like later on. Hey, why don't you come visit here? We'll be very friendly. We swear it to you. No, just come, get on the plane. Land here in our land. Yes. We want to show you chariots and things. No, as your dad was stating, that they're going to send young men and women in, and they're going to attempt in the second presidency from now to do something in the White House. They watch all your movies and how the White House had been taken down. They dream their dreams, and I sit and I laugh. He's talking about God, because it may be true that they can cripple America for a season, and they will, or they have, or something like this. And I don't know if we've seen those parts yet, but they will never touch Israel. And he had other parts in there that are very strong words to these Islamic, like you were stating a little bit ago. What's the difference between Islam and Christianity? Well, they're about to literally find, according to Kim's prophecies and these ones, because there were hard things, ones that I've even been a little nervous because we live in this age of self-censorship, but not just from the censorship people, but from the Islamic guys, because they're quite frankly often dangerous. And you're in their belief set. If you tell them something that's arbitrary to what they want to believe, and Kim was. And I speak boldly but respectfully from this platform, but Saudi Arabia, you kept the oil. God says you tried to deal with Russia. Are we at those parts of the story while we sit here?
Trey, yes.
Yeah, okay. But here's another thing I learned from those tapes, because some of these people that would write me were advisors for those countries. So they've watched the videos. So they're about to get the answer to those questions. What's the difference between these two things? And your dad was very, very cautious with the answers, but there's no way you would even want a cautious answer telling them they were wrong on their own land. It's punishable by death or tarring and feathering or whatever they do if you're a Christian. It's worse than that. They're going to have fun with it.
Yeah.
And, but he was saying you were going to win. Ultimately, you were going to win.
Yes.
And there were more dark parts than there were light parts. But in that grainy tape, I knew we were going to win.
Yeah.
And I put that first, I called it the Trump prophecy video, a prophecy video unlike any other or something. And I honestly think that even the YouTube people and the Google
put
guys,
that video out before the 2016
before
election.
he was even the nominee.
Yeah, that's when you put that video out with Dad's prophecies.
Yeah.
And afterwards is when I started to hear about you. People kept saying, this guy, Trey Smith. And I went and watched the video. And I figured out a way to find you, because I could see you were recognizing what other people were not. And you have continued to do that along the way. And it's brought a lot of people that would never have known about my dad or understood this. You have brought those people to understand it.
Yeah.
And so the part you've played is so significant. And I think it's so beautiful that at 16 years old, God put you on the cruise. Because this is all God doing this. My father was obedient and bold, and he had that prophetic gift. But he didn't know everything. God does.
Yes.
God put you on that cruise, even though maybe you didn't want to be there, and spoke to you of a future that you live now.
Yeah.
And that the man who prophesied over you, you have actually helped people and blessed people and helped people during this election cycle. It is incredible what God has done through you.
It's really like you're a bridge from the voice of the prophetic to the people.
Yeah.
It's like you're a bridge with lights. And that's what God's done. And I know that a lot of the times, God says that he looks at the heart. Man looks at the outward appearance. God looks at the heart. And I know that people probably passed you over, but God didn't. And God showed that so clearly to Kim. And I think that's a beautiful thing. It's like you're a bridge that kind of leads to the lighthouse. And I think that that's really incredible.
Let me tell you this one more thing about that story, because it actually has a little more meaning with it being you're sitting here with you, Donné. So at so a lot of these events I would go to at that time, they were largely about creation and things like this. So, and I'd kind of excelled in those areas, right? So we'd talk about all sorts of different things, biblical topics. And I had Noah, for example. So I'd done some videos on these things that people really liked, particularly in these, like the Answers in Genesis people. And by the way, all these are very wonderful people. And thankfully Trump won, because I was able to save many of the relationships, because there were a lot of these people that at that time, when I had that tape, I had privately showed it to people when I was done with it. And they said, no, you can't upload that, because obviously Hillary's going to win. And it's novel, it's nice, it's a great sentiment, but and a lot of these people didn't believe in prophecy.
Yeah.
And I, for this reason, that reason, or the other reason. But there was a lot of pressure on that. And then when I went to my mother and I said, should I upload this? And I was really passionate about that thing, and I put it together very quickly, actually. And I just felt in my spirit it was right. And she said, yes, go and upload that. And I did. And what's funny about it is I think even the Google people allowed it to have real views. And back there somewhere they were chuckling because there was something else going on with that election. There was a reason they were running Hillary's going to win by 90% while she couldn't fill a high school gym.
Yeah.
This isn't new. And then after that election, anyhow, when I uploaded that, I took, I don't know how many phone calls stating that you just, we supported you in this thing here or in this thing here, and you've just thrown it away. And it's okay if you destroy yourself, but, now you're going to make things that we were involved in look stupid. See, because you're stating, that Trump is going to win, and obviously he's not. And obviously the prophecy stuff is bogus. And, come on, you're not this stupid, Trey. Yeah. But you have an opportunity to pull it down. People will forgive you, and this kind of a thing. And this was literally what I was going through on that end. And these were people that I really respected, and not all, but a lot. And then when the election day came, that was so heavy on me that I didn't even want to watch it. And I went down and I was sitting at like Ruby Tuesdays, and I thought, well, this is stupid. I'm going to go home and I'm going to watch the election. And I got a phone call on the way home, and it was an old friend, and he said, you really ought to look at the screens. He said, they're turning from blue to red. And when I saw some of these hardcore liberals and the statements they were making, for example, the Google guys ran out of their building, and I spoke well of them, and but these people are on the other side, but they're throwing their hats down and cussing or whatever. And my first something just went horribly wrong with whatever they had.
Yeah.
And you had counties in California where you had more votes than you had people that lived there for Hillary. And so
that nonsense was already going on then.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, some of this is just practical. I mean, if you're not filling a high school gym and this other guy's
and we're seeing that happen again now.
Win.
Yeah.
I mean, but
reality.
now it is a lot more obvious to people. Whereas then people weren't paying attention the way they are now because of the events that have transpired. That's why I believe God allowed for these 4 years of Biden so that the scales could be removed from the eyes, just like in the prophecy. And so, wow, what an interesting.
I think a lot of those people learned things too, Donné, that were people they weren't trying to be bad people. They believed there was nothing you could do about it. They did not believe. It's very strange. They believe all the biblical, history stuff, but then when it comes to a lot of, the Lord's not really talking to. Come on, this Clement guy's not real. You know that, Donné. That's not real stuff. It makes you feel warm and fuzzy, but come on, he's not really gonna, the bad guys always win. This world is really Satan's, and he gets all the fun.
Yeah.
So it's just the way it is. And you can say some warm, fuzzy Christian stuff, but we're all this is the pale horse. Okay. Yeah. And we have food buckets here. Okay. And, but that's where it was at. And, but that was a big deal on that. So to me, and even amidst all of that, I remember I was so proud because I had a lady that worked for me at the time, and I was, and that was a real first for me. And she called up and said, had all these people telling me all these negative things, but well,
you took a risk, which is something that my dad had. That was an anointing on him, is that he was a risk taker, and he would step out and prophesy boldly things that seemed impossible, but he was obedient and he wasn't afraid to do it. Where you find a lot of leaders, a lot of Christian leaders, whether they're pastors, whatever, don't operate that way. You know, a theme we see is, oh, we don't want to offend this or that side. We don't want to upset. Where my father had no problem upsetting. I mean, there were times where he was even would be standing at a pulpit. There was one time in particular, and he was so he felt like nothing, and he felt so much resistance that he closed his Bible and walked straight out of the church. And he was never afraid to do that. Right down the aisle, walked straight out of the church. And so that was a characteristic in him that you exhibited at that right time in 2016. And so now here we are in 2024. We have seen so much of these prophecies coming to pass. We're coming up now, how long before the election? I've forgotten how many days. I mean, we're almost there. And now, you know, it's different for people because they saw what happened before with the prophecies through my dad and what God actually can do and how God can take the reins in a nation. And I think that's actually where we are. Do you want to?
Yeah. The other thing that I just wanted to say too is that, you know, even hearing Trey's story, God saw Trey. Here he is. God used Kim to speak to him. But for every person watching, God knows your story too. And so we hear these stories of prophecy and they're for the nations. But Kim also gave so many words that were for people. And people are the point. And so, yes, things feel tumultuous. Yes, things feel crazy. But we have a hope and a future that is secure because of Christ Jesus. Our hope and our faith is not in a man. It's not in a party. It's on the rock, which is Christ. And so I know that we hear these accounts and it's to build our faith. And it's to just remember that God is interested in the personal details of your life and he knows what you need. I don't know you individually, a lot of you, but he knows who you are. He knows what you need and he's able to provide for you in the way that you need. And so that's something to just really hold on to. These stories that you hear, these rememberings, these accounts, it's for you. It's for your family. It's for your life. You might not have had a personal word from Kim the way Trey did or I did or, you know, Donné is his child, but God is the one who gave Kim those words and God is the one who's looking after you and he knows the amount of hair on your head. He cares about the small details. And that's something that I just really wanted to point out as we close, that God, the faith and the hope that we have, it's for today. It's for right now. God gave these words to Kim for now. The future that he was seeing years ago, we're living in right now, and there's more to come. And so every single thing that's been said, prophesied, it might feel like it's for a nation, but you make up that nation. You make up those people. You are the warriors. And so the hope in the future that we have, it's yours as well. And God knows you. He cares about you. And that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Yes. Thanks for saying that, Christy. Absolutely. Trey Smith, thank you so much for joining us again. And of course, we'll have you come on the broadcast, you know, during the election time and afterwards. And we'll give people updates because, of course, you are a regular now and part of our family. And we truly care for you. And thank you so much for joining us today.
We actually do have our food buckets are better quality than a lot of the. I'm just kidding with you. Have a very good. God bless you. Have a very good. It's an honor doing an interview with you, Donné.
No, thank you everybody for joining us. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this special broadcast. We are at the final Reawaken America event, and we are so excited to have Amanda Grace joining us. Of course, Christy's here.
Hello, everybody.
And so you can see we're in our media area, and we are so excited and a little bit sad, right, Amanda? This is the last Reawaken, and I remember the first one I met you. You were one of the first people I met, and everyone's like, you have to meet Amanda Grace. You have to meet Amanda Grace. And we have since become just the best of friends. And, you know, what an experience this has been. And, you know, the election's coming up. We're running out of time.
Yeah.
And I know you've got some stuff planned. You've got a night of prayer planned. And, you know, last week we played on our broadcast a prophecy of my dad speaking about the throne of iniquity and how did he say it about grace?
He said that the throne of iniquity is coming down and it cannot coexist with the throne of grace.
Amen.
It cannot coexist with the throne of grace. And so obviously we see that.
Yes.
And so what are your feelings today as you're sitting here at the last Reawaken America coming up on this election?
You know, we've been at this. I was at the first Reawaken America in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So we've been at this for, I think, 3 years now. You know, this is like, you know, it's like the closing of an incredible chapter, you know,
Yes.
that really had an impact in this nation. And this Reawaken America is actually during the Feast of Tabernacles, which is incredible that it fell this way. And coming up right before the election. And so I believe in this nation, there is an outcry that has gone to the throne of God from the people of God, an outcry that he has heard, an outcry that he heard on Yom Kippur.
Yes.
And that truly we are going to see not only the nation wake up in a way they never have, but when this election happens, the aftermath from it, the people of God have to be equipped and ready for. We do. We have to be equipped and ready for the aftermath of it, you know, because when the election happens, it's not over then.
Oh.
No, it's not over then, because the enemy is going to rise up and he's going to lash out. And we have to be prepared for that and equipped for that and ready.
Absolutely, yes. And we just had some incredible news in regards to, I'll let you go.
So obviously, we were just talking about this a moment ago, but Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles, there's so much to it. You know, there's so much prophetic significance. It's really just a celebrating and a remembering of God bringing the people of Israel out of slavery, out of captivity, and it's recalling and remembering the time that God preserved them in the wilderness. God preserved them while they were living in tabernacles and booths before they reached the promised land in that time of the wilderness. And I think for a lot of people in America, it's felt like a wilderness for the last number of years, for a lot of people around the world. But what happened over the Feast of Tabernacles during Sukkot is that Yahya Sinwar, who was the mastermind of the October 7th Israel attack, was killed. And, you know, I get a lot of people saying, oh, how can you celebrate somebody dying? And I say, well, have you read the Old Testament? Because there was actually quite a lot of celebration of that when it was somebody in direct opposition. And this is somebody who hated the Jewish people, hated the nation of Israel, hated us as Christians, and wanted to see us all dead and killed. And I do believe that God, like your dad was prophesying about, Donné, the throne of iniquity coming down. Look at what's happened this year. The Iranian president somehow suddenly perishing in a helicopter crash. We've got Yahya Sinwar that got taken out. You know, we've got the fact that Nasrallah was taken out. I really do think that that like your dad said, the throne of iniquity cannot coexist with the throne of grace. I'm trusting God that we're going to see a season of grace in America rise up. And obviously, Amanda, the one thing I wanted to ask you too.
Yes.
Again, I apologize for the controversy, but here we are.
That's okay.
What would you say to Christians who are considering not voting?
Oh, I have a lot to say about that. Okay. Just light me up like a firecracker and send me off in that direction. So when this nation was founded and the Declaration of Independence was written, there's actually a prayer. There's actually a cry to the Lord in the Declaration of Independence. And when the 13 colonies were founded, all of them, all 13, required a declaration of faith to serve in government. 12 Protestant, 1 Catholic, all required a declaration of faith. We have been given a God-given right and duty, which is liberty, which is freedom with responsibility. Our responsibility is to vote. Our responsibility in this, people died for this. People died so we could have this right. And when you say, as a Christian, I'm not getting involved, I'm not doing this, you're making the mistake that the 12,000 pastors made in Germany who said, I'm not getting involved with this. And it paved the way for tyranny. It paved the way for Hitler to rise to power because that's the kind of power the church has given unto us by Almighty God. And so when you say, I'm going to sit this out and I'm not going to vote, you have not one right to complain about what happens in this nation. Not one. Because you are choosing to abstain from something that God has given us a right to do.
That was awesome. That feels like in a video game when you don't know that you've hit a secret block and it's like knocks out a piece of dynamite that just like goes out and takes out the enemy. That's what that felt like. I was so happy I asked that question. You said that so wonderfully. I could not have said it better. And like, I wish I could vote. Although in California, I got a mail-in ballots and they're not checking voter ID. Imagine that. Can you imagine? But thank you, Amanda. That was awesome. I'm grateful for it. And I feel like that's a great soundbite that's just like play out in churches, just like if you're considering not voting, presenting. So thank you. I'll hand back to you now. That was great. That was like a secret block, you know?
It definitely was. I mean, You take an Italian woman and put some prophetic in her, and everybody's in trouble.
It's the 4th of July, people, is what it is. Yes.
And that's just so true, so true. And, by not doing anything, by stepping back, you are allowing, that the issue of abortion has come up recently. A lot of people were upset with Trump because of what he said about the rape and incest. But, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. But in my opinion, a lot of people said, well, then I'm not going to vote. If you do that, you are basically giving it to a much worse situation,
Yes,
actually the worst situation in regards to that. So I don't know if you have anything you wanted to add to that.
Well, I'll say, first of all, Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, silence in the face of evil is still evil.
Here we are.
Okay? Look at that. Okay, there we go. I hit a hot button for her now. Okay. So, and this is what I talk about then when I talk about faith and issues. The enemy has purposely tried to politicize issues that are biblical and moral, and he's tried to politicize them perfectly to get an edge. So he's tried to really sneak himself in there with his little perfect planning things, which is not perfect at all, and do this. It took the Lord decades to get me where I am, right? And you can't expect somebody to get where you are a day sooner than you did, right?
Yeah.
And so when it comes to the Trumps and these issues, pray for them. If you don't agree with that stance, guess what? Pray for them, because they are learning and they are a work in progress when it comes to the Lord, and they're navigating very difficult situations. You're not voting for a pastor, people. You're voting for a leader, and it's a very different situation. Yes, a leader can have some shepherd qualities, but ultimately a leader of a nation and a pastor are two very different things. And his views may not line up completely with your views, but guess what? At least he's allowing the Lord to work on him with it. The other side has promoted godlessness for decades, and it has progressively gotten worse to the horror that we see now and the perversions that we see now. So just because you don't agree with him on everything doesn't mean you can't vote for him. Okay? You wouldn't have liked David that much either then. You probably wouldn't have, because David was a very flawed man. Incredibly flawed. Okay. In fact, Nathan had to kick the door in on him and tell him what's up because he wasn't listening. He was being a naughty boy. And so basically, when it comes to this, you as believers are meant to pray for that leadership and pray for the Lord to work on them when it comes to these things. There's still a work in progress and they're learning. And we have to understand that, and we have to give some grace with that.
Yes, definitely. Just like you said, our leaders, they may not be where we are spiritually, but at least they're open. And I heard Trump speaking at that dinner last night. I never remember the name. What's the name of it?
Do
you remember the name? What is the dinner he spoke at last night?
I don't know.
The Catholic thing.
Okay.
And he honored God over and over and over again. And you don't see the other side doing that. And God sees that, and God chose him for this time. And we know that because how much did my dad prophesy? I mean, it's more about him and about this situation than anything else through his whole time prophesying.
And nobody was as surprised by the Trump prophecies as your dad. His face, you could see it. You always knew with Kim when he said something, and then he'd kind of shake his head and look around, because we've said it so many times. Kim was not a man who was drawn to politics. He'd get very annoyed by the whole thing. He wasn't interested. He'd sometimes fling a remote across the room because he was so frustrated watching whoever was saying whatever. But it's so obvious what God was doing and so obvious what God was saying to him. But I do really just love what Amanda had to say there about that. And like when she brought up Dietrich Bonhoeffer, I obviously got very excited. I have a tattoo of him on my arm because he is, when these other pastors and leaders chose to abstain and became the biggest group that was responsible for allowing the Holocaust to happen, which was the bystanders. Dietrich Bonhoeffer stood up and said, I'm going to resist. And he wasn't just resisting. He was part of 2 assassination attempts on Hitler's life, and both of them failed. And he ultimately ended up paying with his life for rescuing Jews. But he is honored as a righteous among the nations member. God used him. God's still using him to this day. And so it's our opportunity now. When people look back at history now, when God shows what happened at this point in history, we have a choice. Which side
Yes.
of this fence are we going to find ourselves on? Where are we going to be found standing?
agree
Are we
with
going to
that.
be those that, like the book of Ezekiel tells us, to stand in the gap on behalf of the people and build the wall? Or are we going to be those that put down the hammer and the tools and say, I'm not going to be part of this? Putting down the sword, putting down the hammer are not options for us. We have to be those who, like when the walls with Nehemiah were being rebuilt, each man kept his sword to his side, and he had a sword in one hand and a tool in another.
That's so true. Beautiful. Well, I think we're running out of time here, but thank you so much
Thank you,
for
guys.
joining us
I love coming on.
and for chatting with us, my friend. And it has been such an incredible experience. And just like you said, it is not over when this election happens. That's really where it's going to
a
begin.
beginning.
And I heard General Flynn this morning saying it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
It's not going to just be fixed after this election.
I
It
agree.
could take up to a generation from the damage that's been done. And so, I say to people, even my dad prophesied about the Supreme Court and the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And what happened there was the shackles that the federal government held over that have been broken. And it is up to us, Christians, to change the hearts of people. We must be the hands and feet
That's
of
right,
Jesus, but
amen.
we must be his voice too. And we must be the ones that go and influence, because now each state can vote on that issue. And more issues and more things will begin to come up and will begin to be resolved. And my dad saw a victory, but he saw restoration as well. And he saw it at a time when people didn't really think there was much need for restoration. What's he saying?
Yeah.
What's he prophesying? And now we understand it many years later that yes, this is the time for restoration, and we have that promise to hold on to. And so I thank you for everything that you're doing.
Aw, praise the Lord. Thank you.
Not only with the Reawaken America Tour, but we're going to have a night of prayer.
Yes, October
Tell us.
29th, 1 week before the election, 7 days before the election. Night of prayer for the nation and the Trump family. These two lovely ladies will be on. Eric and Lara Trump will be on. We're getting the lineup together, but we have an incredible group of people coming on for this night
We're
of
going
prayer.
to pray right before the election, and we will
7
be in
days.
Washington, D.C. anyway.
That's
so we're
gonna
going to
be amazing.
Me and Christy will be joining you, and we will pray from the Capitol, and it is going to be so exciting. Thank you so much,
you.
my friend. I love you.
I love you.
Thank you, everybody.
And I really believe that the devil is able to do his finest work when we're isolated. That's when he can really get stuck into your brain and start saying things to you and really start making you question everything. And
It's all about faith. Faith is like resting in the sufficiency of the evidence.
In the daily walk with God, there is so much strength that we have to will. And everyone's going to have high moments and low moments, but I feel like there's power to have unwavering faith, even in low, dark, testing, traumatizing, triggering moments.
again, that mustard seed of faith, it just has to be a tiny little speck of holding on to a promise God made to you. Sometimes the only prayers I've managed to squeak out are, God, please don't let me go. And that's about as far as it's gone. And he's been faithful and he hasn't. Watch now at real-faith.tv.
See, in 2014, in 2014, that's when so many powerful prophetic words came forth. One being impeach, but nay, that took place in between 2016 and 2020, right? They tried to impeach number 45 twice. But here's something that is so powerful, and I know most of you have probably heard me say this, but it was in 2014 when he said, once you recognize the man that I raise up, pray. For the devil will try everything in his power to put a witch into the White House. You see, we were thinking that applied to 2016, but now more so in 2024, it really, really rings clear and rings out very loud. Because the things that we are seeing, he said, pray, for the devil will try everything in his power. Look at everything that has happened since 2020, and especially the uptick of all of this silliness that's taking place in 2024. Guys, things are going to get much, much, much more crazier. But the devil is trying everything in his power to put witchcraft in the White House so that the rebellious, unrighteous, Jezebelian spirit can continue to thrive in this country.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic MyPillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size MyPillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
We here at the House of Destiny are partnering with you to let our viewers, of course, know about your company. It's Beverly Hills Precious Metal.
Andrew, explain how that works.
So I'll walk you through it right now. So if you go to bh-pm.com, right there on the homepage, you'll see a form that you could fill out. And that form is very important in letting us know how we can help you. So you just put in your first name, last name, email address, phone number. There's a section that says, how did you hear about us? And in there, put Kim Clement. And then there's a portion where you could write a couple of notes down on the bottom. Usually within about 24 to 48 hours, we'll contact you by phone call, and then we'll go over everything with you. This isn't a high pressure deal. We always recommend that if you feel uncomfortable, take a step back, pray about it. You will gain the answers that you need by doing that, and come back to us when you're comfortable.